And unfortunately, I think there are too many people in American politics that either for the sake of grifting or for the sake of their actual beliefs, which I do
Mm,
respect more as long as if you actually believe this, are embracing this false narrative
mm,
that we are a heavily religious, we are a heavily Christian nation. We need to go back to that. That's something that needs to be embraced. You know this from the Twitter rants. So to give background and context, going into
absolutely.
the second question, you and I,
Mm,
when as we operate in politics online, are very much against the idea of Christian nationalism or the idea of a Christian
sure.
nationalist future for America, and in many cases, the American right. We see
Mm,
people in the culture wars, from socially conservatives to think tank employees, making these grifty kind of or weird statements that weren't even said just a few years ago to either appease people or because they generally think it's the best solution for America, despite the fact that America has always been a secular and religiously diverse nation. That's why we have survived while countless other Western empires have gone through several different
mm,
government reiterations because of this massive division. Our religious diversity, which, by the way, helps out Christians the most because they're still the
mm,
majority of America's population, has benefited from that. But there are people that think we've lost this Christian nationalism that we never really had, and we must be Christian nationalists. It's a term that I've seen woke people and far leftists and people such as that use. And for a long time, I didn't use this term because you'd have plenty of partisan individuals use the term Christian nationalism to just describe anybody that they disagree with. Like woke people would call not non woke people white Christian nationalists, for instance.
oh,
I saw it just now in a promotional email by a think tank today, and it's very unfortunate. But now you have people in American politics. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one, for instance.
mm,
Paul Gosar, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congressman Paul Gosar, Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire, for instance, and even Charlie
mm.
Kirk of Turning Point USA use the term Christian nationalist in a positive context, which in my mind goes against the very religiously free foundations and ultimately the very narrative that was pushed in American politics just a few years ago away from this kind of authoritarian dogmatism. I see it as a poison pill that will
Mm.
end up harming the very movements that they claim to have built and created. So do you see this entirely as a grift? Do you see this as a show? Do you see this as a short-term problem that we have to deal with while the rest of America is ultimately still going in a secular direction? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that this whole Christian nationalism thing it's hard to, other than to say that it's a bad idea. If one wants to see what happened in the age of Christian nationalism, I highly recommend checking out Eye for an Eye. You'll learn quite a bit about it. I would say that when it comes to what's going on today, it's kind of hard, but maybe one could roughly break it down into two camps. You have the grifters who just realize it's something to latch onto online. I don't have any inside knowledge, but I think it's quite likely that Cernovich falls into this. People who just see what the current thing for some folks is, and they sink their claws into it because they know it's a great way to get attention, even if they're not getting money off it. For some people, quite a few people, particularly the age of social media, attention is worth more than money, so they get it. And then for other people, this might be more like your Green. I think she might actually believe this. It's something that they think is a good thing, and they're probably not very deep thinkers. So I mean, it's not surprising that they would come up with this. For people who are grifting off it, I think the motive is obvious. There's not much point in discussing it. For people who are serious about it, I think it's an expression of desperation at America, which has changed into something that they can hardly recognize and is rapidly changing into something which is utterly unrecognizable. And it's totally understandable that they would not be happy about this. I'm not happy about it, but they rather than trying to deal with the situation proactively, they adopted extremely reactionary pose which is to say we need to go back to this thing which was never even part of America. You're talking about something basically pre-Enlightenment, and have that be our ruling order. Now, a lot of these folks probably don't even know what the Enlightenment was, but they all the same, they do want to go back to a pre-Enlightenment stage. If they can't articulate that, it's what they want all the same. So I think it is desperation for the people who take it seriously. Now, the most important thing to bring up here is does this stuff really carry any potency? The answer is no. It's mainly an online thing, which is fueled by a noisy minority of folks in social media. What happens on social media, whether you're talking about the left or the right, is that it attracts extreme voices who otherwise would not have a platform. But when they get together with like minds, they basically create an echo chamber, and the wailings of that chamber are amplified to the point that it sounds like these people have much more support than they actually do. Now, when it comes to these, basically theocrats, I would say that they understand that they're losing, but they figure this is the best way, the ones who take it seriously, not to go down without a fight to have some chance of renewal. But for people who don't take it seriously, this is just the next thing to either cash in on, or boiling it down to money is overly simplistic, but I would say that they probably just hope to get attention off of it. And I really think with social media, one needs to focus on that, because people say, oh, you're a grifter, you're a this, you're a that. And grifting traditionally has meant scamming. People try to get money that they have no right to on the basis of deception. But when it comes to social media grifting, I don't think most of it has to do with money, really. I think the currency is attention. So people say things they don't believe in to get attention, and to them, that's worth more than a check for, $100,000. So I really think for a lot of folks, that's what this boils down to.